Both the trunks and the branching systems of trees adapt to local circumstances and have their own individuality. The branching structure of a tree like this maple is dedicated to the support of leaves and to the movement of fluid between them and the rest of the tree. Although wood seems solid, a microscopic view shows that it's actually made of thin partitions of cellulose. The fluid moves through these bundles of tubing. They form a substructure of polygons like the ones made by the bubbles in a froth. The walls of some of the tubing are reinforced against collapse with helixes 1/100th of a millimeter in diameter. As the stem grows, these coils can stretch without losing their strength. If a piece of oak is cut across the grain, it reveals a cross-section of the tubing in its circulatory system. As these vessels stiffen, they contribute to the support of the tree. Form and function is integrated. A single shape is both plumbing and structure.
I'm going to give you each a leaf, and we're going to try what we call a leaf rubbing, okay? What I want you to do is put it underneath your paper and make it nice and flat, and then pick just one color crayon, one that you like the best here. You can finish your other pictures now. Make sure that it gets nice and flat underneath.
A leaf is a microcosm of a tree. It has major veins radiating from the stem, and each one has tributaries leading to a lacy network dividing the surface into sections. These flat areas surrounded by veins contain the final destination of the fluid. Moisture absorbed by the roots is given off through these microscopic openings called stomata. It's the last stop in the branching structure of the tree. The large veins in a leaf are not only for the movement of fluids, they are structural as well, helping to stiffen and spread the leaf flat to expose the surface to the sun. The process of evolution responsible for the forms of branches, leaves, and wood has also helped to determine the designs of seeds. Maple and ailanthus seeds, which are spread by the wind, have propeller-like blades. Sharp spikes keep animals out of these horse chestnuts before they ripen. And even though they're also toxic, squirrels will still collect and bury them, as they do with acorns and berries. Fruit and seeds are produced when flowers are pollinated. Flowers are the reproductive organs of plants. The individual florets in this sunflower open up. When insects come to gather the pollen, they fertilize the florets with pollen from another flower. Every fertilized floret becomes a seed containing an embryonic plant. The forms that seeds take are related to various strategies for distribution. One ailanthus tree produces thousands of seeds a year. Each seed is a helix, an aerodynamic form twisted like a propeller that keeps it airborne for wide dispersal by the wind. Late in the summer, the lotus lilies in this pond produce their extravagant blossoms. After pollination by insects, each one grows a cone-shaped pod with young seeds in the middle. When the seeds ripen, they become loose in the pod. Eventually, it falls into the water and floats. It drifts upside down, and as it softens, the seeds fall out one by one. Like the seeds in the individual pods themselves, the cones pack against the shores of the pond by the thousands. As they are blown back and forth, they drop seeds all over the bottom, where they will wait until next year, or sometimes for many years, before taking root. As the pod of the milkweed dries, it shrinks. The case splits and reveals a tight package of seeds inside. Each one is a tiny explosion pattern that makes a parachute so it will travel farther with the wind. The dispersal of some seeds depends on the warmth of spring. The seeds of the dogbane bush absorb moisture and heat, and the contents expand, splitting the seed case. Many plants distribute their seeds as widely as possible. This way, a plant won't have to compete with its own offspring. Each of these seeds has its own parachute, and the wind does the rest. Living things are layers of patterns. A dandelion's seeds make an explosion pattern. The seeds were attached to an egg-like stub. It's divided by a spiraling pattern of cells, meeting 3 at a time, making 3-way joints. In the center of each cell, a tiny stalk that broke when the seed blew away. And on the head of the stalk, a grouping of smaller cells made by the tubing that once brought nutrients to the seed. And so it goes, patterns made of other patterns, repeatedly layered one upon the other. Behind the complexity of an organism like this plant, there are many basic shapes. Just as a plant can be seen as a composite of different forms, so can an animal. The antlers of the moose are huge branches, sometimes 6 feet across. The horns of an Alaskan doll ram are spirals. This king snake moves in a meandering pattern. And so does the moray eel of a Caribbean coral reef. This porcupine fish inflates itself into a sphere like a balloon. And the bony plates of the cowfish make a honeycomb of polygons. But these forms aren't always so easy to perceive. A bird is a complex but highly organized system that depends on the integration of simpler forms to meet the demands of its way of life. Each of its feathers and the internal structure of its bones is based on fundamental patterns, just like its egg. These eggs are strong enough to take